Hi there, welcome to today's tutorial where we are going to learn how to create a powerful and smart invoice tracker in Excel. While this tutorial focuses on invoicing deadlines, you can apply the same principles to manage any type of deadlines effectively in Excel. Here's what you learn: how to calculate the number of days left to pay an invoice, assign statuses like pay now or past due, and even clear formatting when an invoice is marked as paid. We will also go a step further by automating due dates, rolling them into the next month, and wait for it, setting up email notifications to automatically remind clients about upcoming or due payments. So grab your practice file and let's dive right in. Now let me walk you through the key columns that we'll be working with today. These columns are already set up in the file for your convenience. We have the invoice number column. We have the invoice date column, which is the date the invoice was issued. We have the invoice amount, how much the client owes. We have the due date. This will be automatically calculated based on the invoice date. Then we have the days left. This will show how many days are left before the invoice is due. We have the status. We will use formulas to assign statuses like on time, pay now, or past due. We have the standard due date period. 30 days is the default, but you can change this if needed. We have the paid column. We will use this column to track whether the invoices has been paid. We have the email address column, the client's email address, which will be used for notifications. Like you already know, we're going to be sending emails automatically to clients once invoices are due and overdue. And then we have the new date column, which will be automatically updated to the next month for overdue invoices. So you see that the file has 15 rows of data with invoices listed from row 2 to row 16. Alright, let's calculate the due dates for each invoice. And why do we need this? Well, it saves you from manually counting 30 days for every single invoice. Instead, we let Excel do the heavy lifting. Here is how. Click on cell D2 and type in this formula. What does this do? It adds 30 days from the standard due date in G2 to the invoice date in B2. I'm going to have that formatted as a date. Once you've entered the formula, drag it down the due date column to apply it to all the rows from D2 to D16. This formula is a lifesaver for businesses that issue invoices with a fixed payment period, like 30 days. If the payment terms change, you can simply update the value in G2 and Excel will instantly recalculate all the due dates for you. No manual work required. Now let's calculate how many days remain until each invoice is due. This is important because it helps you prioritize follow-ups. Here's what you need to do. In cell E2, I'm going to enter this formula. Have that formatted as number, not date. What does this do? It subtracts today's date from the due date, giving you the number of days left. Drag the formula down the days left column, that is E2 to E16, to calculate it for all rows. If you see negative values, it means those invoices are overdue. Imagine you're managing 50 client invoices. Instead of manually checking which ones are overdue, this column gives you a clear picture at a glance. You know exactly which clients to follow up with first. Now, this is where things get interesting. Let's assign a status to each invoice based on how many days are left. So in cell F2, I'm going to enter this formula. Press enter. Now, here's what the formula does. If days left is greater than 7, the status will be on time. If days left is between 1 and 7, the status will become pay now. And if days left is 0 or negative, the status will be past due. So drag the formula down the status column F2 to F16. This status column acts like your personal assistant, telling you exactly which invoices need your immediate attention. It simplifies your workload and makes prioritizing much easier. Now, what about invoices that are already overdue? Should you manually update their due dates to the next month? Of course not. Excel can handle that for you automatically. And here is how. In cell J2, I'm going to enter this formula. This adds 1 month to the original due date. So if you have that formatted as a date, you see what I'm talking about. Drag the formula down the column J2 to J16 to apply it to all rows. So this is especially useful for recurring invoices like monthly subscriptions or retainers. You don't have to keep track of due dates yourself. Excel does it for you. Now let's make the tracker more user-friendly by adding color-coded statuses. Why? Because a quick glance should tell you everything you need to know. To do that, select the status column, that is F2 to F16, go to Home, Conditional Formatting, then New Role. We're going to go with the option Use the formula to determine which cells to format. For past due date, we're going to use this formula and apply a red fill. To add the other conditional formatting formula for pay now and on time, just go back to conditional formatting and click Manage Rows. And here we can add other rows. So I'm going to click on New Role, use the formula to determine which cells to format, and have this formula imputed for pay now. Click the Format button to give it a yellow fill. Okay. And lastly, for on-time status, add a new role, use the formula to determine which cells to format, then have this formula imputed. I'm going to give that a green fill. So click on the Format button and select green as the fill. Apply that and OK. So color coding makes your tracker visually intuitive. If you're sharing this file with a team, they will immediately know which invoices need urgent attention. We don't have any invoice that is currently past due, but if I have one of these dates changed to a later date, we should be able to have a past due invoice, which will be highlighted red, just as you can see. So I've updated some of the dates so we can have a number of past due invoices on our template, just to have a real life situation to work with. Now, let's add a feature to mark invoices as paid, and there are 2 ways to do this. The first option is to add a checkbox, which we're going to be doing using the Developer tab. If you don't have the Developer tab enabled for you, you just have to go to File, Options, then Customize Ribbon. And right here, all you have to do is to make sure that the checkbox for Developer is checked. Now going back to my Developer tab, click on the Developer tab, click Insert, then Checkbox. We're going to have that placed in cell H2. So let's delete all the inputs we have here, place the checkbox back on H2. I'm going to have that edited to remove the text and have it copied down the rest of the cells. Right click on the first checkbox and select Format Control. In the Control tab, we're going to have this link set to the same cell where the checkbox is placed, which is H2. Then click OK. And we need to repeat this process for each checkbox in column H. It can be done by simply copying and pasting. So I'm going to have to do that individually. For H3, we want that linked to H3, not H2. So click OK. I'm going to quickly rush through the process just to save time. So now we have all the checkboxes linked to their individual cells. We have this one linked to H3, just as expected, and we have this one, for instance, linked to H7, as expected. Now, why does this matter? When a checkbox is checked, it will display true, and when unchecked, it displays false. This directly ties the paid status to the checkboxes. But what we don't want is to have this text shown in the cells, because it just makes our template untidy. To have that hidden, what you can do is to select the old cells and have the font color changed to the cell fill. My own selfie is light purple, so that's what I'm going to have it changed to. And that way it's going to blend in seamlessly without showing. Now you might want to clear the formatting here when the checkbox is checked paid. To do that, highlight the range we want formatted, which is this one. Go to Home, Conditional Formatting, then New Role. Choose Use a formula to determine which cells to format and have this formula imputed. So this formula will check if the checkbox in column H is marked as true, that is checked. And we're going to have the formatting set to no fill or any desired format to indicate the role is cleared. I'm going to go with no fill or choose the color of the cell, which is light purple in my case. Then click OK. OK. So for all the boxes we have checked, we have the conditional formatting for the corresponding cells cleared. So if I have it unchecked, it's going to go back to what we had earlier. Finally, let's set up automatic email reminders for invoices marked as pay now or past due. We're going to be using a VBA code for that. But before we begin, here's what you need to know. You need to have your workbook saved as a macro-enabled workbook. Regular workbooks like Excel, SX won't support the VBA code. And you also need to have Microsoft Outlook installed to send the mails. Here's how to do it. Open the VBA editor by pressing Alt F11 on your keyboard, or go to the Developer tab and click on the Visual Basic option. We're going to insert a new module, so click on the Insert tab and select Module. Then I will copy and paste this code into the new module. So this code is a very simple and straightforward one and can be easily customized to suit your needs. To customize the code, all you have to do is to ensure that the sheet name is the actual sheet name for you. If it's not sheet 1, you just have to make sure that it's replaced with the actual name for it to work. You need to also make sure that the email addresses are in column I, just like I have it on the tracker. And lastly, you can have the body of the email modified to suit your need or the company's brand. Now, here's an exciting part of this code. It will personalize the email by using the recipient's name. But to make this work, we need to add a new column to our tracker. So let's quickly create a new column in our tracker to store the names of the recipients. And here's what you need to do. Insert a new column after column J. I will have it labeled recipient's name. Add grid lines to it to make it match with the other cells. In this column, you're going to enter the names of your clients or recipients corresponding to each invoice. For example, if the first email is going to Ayotunde Ajibola, I would go ahead and type in the actual name here. I could type in just the first name or include the full name, but I think I'll just leave it at the first name. Then I'm going to go ahead to fill out the rest of the column with the appropriate names for the recipients. So this small step will allow our code to dynamically personalize each email with the recipient's name, making the message more professional and friendly. So now that we've added the names and finalized the tracker, let's go back to the VBA page to run the code by pressing the Run button. So we can see that the name has been assigned to the macro. Just go ahead and click Run. So this macro will go through your tracker, identify invoices marked as pay now or past due, and send personalized emails to the recipients listed in column K. And then the code is also set up to send you a notification once the emails has been sent successfully. So click OK. So now that we've set up the macro to send email notifications, let's look at what the final result will look like. Imagine a scenario where one of the invoices in our tracker is marked as pay now or past due. Here's what happens when you run the macro. Excel goes through the rows in your tracker and identifies invoices that meet the criteria. It dynamically pulls information from the tracker, such as the invoice number, the amount, the due date, and the recipient's name, and uses it to craft a personalized email for the client or for your team. Here's an example of an email generated by the macro. So let's break this down further. The subject line includes the invoice number, so the client knows immediately what the email is about. And the body is clear and professional with details like the invoice amount, the due date, and the recipient's name. So here's what you need to do to see this in action in real life. Mark a few invoices as pay now or past due in the status column. Run the macro by pressing Alt F8 on your keyboard, selecting Send Email Notifications and clicking Run. Then open your Outlook Sent Items folder to see the emails that were just sent. And there you have it, a fully automated process to manage invoice reminders and keep your clients informed. Congratulations, you've just built an advanced invoice tracker with Excel. From due dates to automated email reminders, you've covered it all. If you found this tutorial helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Let me know what you'd like to learn next, and I'll see you in the next video.